GameSpot bonus stage. I'm your host, John Davison. With me is Brendan Sinclair, who does the Quoted for Truth show with me.
Yeah.
And with us is Jonathan Mack, creator of Everyday Shooter. We're going to talk a little bit about what you've seen at the show, what you're working on right now. What are you working on right now?
I'm working on this game called Sound Shapes.
Yeah.
It started out as a collaboration with my friend Shahan from Toronto, and it sort of just kind of grew and grew and grew. Now we have a whole studio helping us make this game.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So today, at E3, the big thing is it's not just a PS Vita game anymore, right?
Nope.
You guys are bringing it to PS3?
It's a PS3 and PS Vita game. It's cross-play compatible. You can upload your level on your Vita and then download it on your PS3. All the community stuff is the same across both platforms. So yeah.
So I think when people look at Sound Shapes, they might look at a video of it and just be like, that looks and sounds really cool, but I have no idea what's actually going on.
Right.
Can you actually explain the gameplay to people?
Yeah, well, okay, the gameplay is basically a platformer. We really wanted to shy away from musical toy or musical thing that's kind of interactive. We really want to make sure it's a video game first and foremost, but it's also a musical instrument. So when you go into the editor and you see that blank screen, it's sort of like your musical canvas. So you can go, if you tap on the bottom of the screen, it'll play a low note. If you tap on the top of the screen, it'll play a high note, and then all the notes in between. And the way it works is it's just like a 16-step sequencer, and each screen is sort of like a layer on top of it. And as you go further away, it fades out. One thing that we don't talk about a lot is we introduce loop notes, and that's how we're doing a lot of collaborations with different musicians. So instead of different pitches, you have different loops, and then you can cut between them like a DJ. It's really easy to do. It's actually super fun to do as well.
So the loop just being here's sort of a segment of a song / level.
Yeah, you might get a bass line on one row, and then you might get
and then combining the two over, it makes it for a different bit of gameplay.
Yeah, what's cool is when you have some loop notes have different drum parts on each layer, and you can you might hear a little here, or you might hear a little kick here, or a little snare here, and you can just kind of listen for it and combine them together, and you get this really cool sort of glitchy mashup kind of thing. I kind of think of, you remember mashups I don't know if that's still going on, I haven't been on the internet in a long time, but in the early 2000s there was this whole thing with mashups where they're taking two different songs and just stick them together, see how that sounds. But you can kind of do that here with the loops, but you get sort of this extra power where you can choose where you mash in and out. So it's kind of sometimes I like to think of it as mashups updated for our times.
And the loops are they written by you and your collaborator in Toronto, or is it licensed artists?
Some are written by Shahan, and we have deadmau5 loops. We have loops from Jim Guthrie, who did the soundtrack for Sword and Sorcery.
Awesome. Now, when I spoke to you about Everyday Shooter, which is just an absolutely awesome game, it's on PS3 right now.
He's very nice.
You told me, I think that you didn't really have any sort of formal musical training or background when you set out to make that game. It just sort of, you learned as you went. Has this been any more of an education on that front for you? Is this something that you need, that musical background, to really understand and play?
I think with Shahan's help, because he actually has he comes from the music side, and he's interested in video games, and I come from the video game side, and I'm interested in music, so it sort of worked out that way. And I actually learn a lot just seeing what he's thinking about musically, and there's a lot of stuff I just couldn't be asked to. Are we allowed to swear? Couldn't be asked to learn different scales, how to transpose between them and all that stuff. But that's really critical when you're making this sort of game, because he sort of has to program all his musical knowledge into the game, and in such a way that when people are using it, he's sort of there, sort of like a digitized Shahan in there going, okay, behind the scenes just making the music sound rad, but still giving the player enough ownership over it that it's their work.
So one of the things that I find most interesting about your story is kind of Everyday Shooter was a one-man production pretty much, and it's put out by Sony, as big a console maker, the man as there is.
Yes, the man.
So how did that come about? Did you work with the PSN team there, or did you pitch it to them? Did they find you?
As the story, because I wasn't there when the call happened.
No?
So I think what happened was I had my game in the IGF.
Yeah.
And then one of the producers at Santa Monica saw the game, and they're like, "Whoa, maybe we should sign this." And at that time, they had just signed, I think, that game company.
Right.
For Flow.
Yeah.
And so I had an agent at the time, and I guess he got the call from Sony, and we're like, okay, let's fly out to LA and see what they have to offer, you know?
So you came from the Independent Games Festival, the awards competition.
Yeah.
And then now you're being published by Sony. Like, I'm fascinated by the indie gaming community and the way people perceive it, and when someone counts as indie and when someone doesn't count as indie, and like, are those semantics discussions are within the indie community? Do you guys actually care about any of that?
No, that discussion only happens
That's just us.
like in the media.
Yeah.
Elsewise, it's just like, I don't know, it's just a bunch of dudes making games, you know? A bunch of people. It's not, I don't know, the semantics don't matter.
So, I guess this could get touchy, but you know, what's it like then as the indie guy working with Sony?
What do you mean? Like,
how supportive of whatever it is that you feel like doing
I think
been?
What's really great, because if I'm on my own, I got to do all my marketing, I got to set up all my interviews, and it's really hard. It's like, I can only reach so many people, but with Sony's help, you know, they've just got a massive engine going that they could really do things like hook up with Deadmau5 or hook up with Jim Guthrie and like set up interviews like this, get us on the PS Vita even, you know? So it's really good in that sense. I mean, Soundshapes, I guess when you look at it, it's not like glitzy, like, you know, like your AAA games,
right.
But it takes a lot of people to work on that. Like all the different albums, they're basically different, like whole different games, like different entities and stuff. And we need to make this huge team to make that happen. And so Sony's there to provide that funding. That's really good.
So, like, as the indie guy here in the heart of AAA country at E3, it's like, what have you thought of the show so far?
I don't understand how you guys do this. This is ridiculous. It's so loud. It's so like, I don't know. It's really hard to think.
Did you watch any of the press conferences yesterday?
I only watched the Sony one.
Yeah. What do you think?
It's okay. I'm
Anything
not
jump
really
out
good
at
at
you?
sitting and watching. It's not my thing.
Were any of the games that they showed stuff that interested you?
I thought is it Quantic Dream, the guys who did Heavy Rain
the
and
Beyond thing?
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. I don't know. I really like Juno. Whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, so the Ellen Page thing was pretty cool.
Yeah. So go on.
So with the Soundshapes first announced on the Vita, a lot of people have been saying that handheld gaming is kind of doomed, kind of passé with like the iPad and tablets coming up. What made you choose a dedicated gaming portable to start that on, even if it's on PS3 now?
It's actually pretty interesting because, well, when we were working on it, we were working on it on a government grant, and we ran out of money, and then we went to Sony. We thought, oh, we'll just put it on PlayStation 3, and then they showed us the Vita, and we thought, yeah, I guess we could put it on this, you know. But then as we started working with it, we realized, oh, whoa, this is like the perfect fit, because if you think about Soundshapes, it's like you play it and then you sort of edit. There's these two sides to it, and the Vita is kind of the same thing. It's got these controls and it's got this touch screen thing. It sort of has this two sides to it. It's like new school and old school, and that really sort of fit with our game. It's like one control scheme for each area. You know what I mean? So I don't know. I think that really worked out. And you really want, if you're making like a musical instrument, you really want it to be as tactile as possible, and that the touchscreen is really good for that. But if you're making like a traditional video game, like a platformer, I mean, I'm sure you've played platformers with touchscreens. It's not quite the same, right?
Yeah.
You know.
So one of the big things in the indie community this year has been Kickstarter.
Yep.
And with Sony helping you, I guess you don't need it so much. But what do you think Kickstarter actually means to indie developers that just want to get started?
It's just another avenue. I mean, back then, when I started, it was pretty good, right? Like, if you can get on Steam, but it's actually, you have to find someone to get you on Steam, you know what I mean? Or like any of the channels. So it's just another channel that developers can use to sort of make their dreams come true. And what's really nice about it is that, I guess if you get funded, that means someone is interested in it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It has that sort of filter built into it, which is cool. And it gives sort of ownership to the people investing in it too, you know? So it's, I don't know, I think that's a really positive message where it's sort of like up to the people to make the games happen. It's like, in a way, they're part developer.
Are there any trends in the industry that you think are less positive? What's your biggest worry about the industry, I guess?
My biggest worry about the industry, I guess I'm not too worried about the industry. I think it'll shift a lot. Like, I've been pretty unplugged from like what's going on, but I'm hearing that there's a lot of disgruntlement about stuff happening in the AAA scene. But I think like, I don't know, there's so much cool stuff in the indie scene, and then that stuff I think is going to start to bubble up and become the new AAA.
Yeah.
And I really like some of the stuff like Unfinished Swan, Dyad, Retro City Rampage, like those are really cool games, and I'm really interested in seeing more stuff like that.
Have you had a chance to actually like try out all that stuff? Unfinished Swan specifically.
I really want to, okay, so I played that game like what, it was 4 years ago or whatever at IGF, and I was like, wow, there's something here.
Yeah.
And he wasn't done it yet. But I've only been hearing from friends about how amazing it's gotten, and I'm not sure I'm allowed to like say anything about it, but I haven't played it yet, and I'm waiting like...
You're under a friend DA.
I'm just waiting till I finish Soundshapes, and then I just want to dive in and play like Journey, Unfinished Swan when it comes out, you know, like there's a whole bunch of games happening.
Yeah. So one thing I wanted to ask, so it's something that Brendan's been getting into this a lot on GameSpot with the audience, this idea of who really owns the creation of games, because like a lot of the audience has been quite upset about the ending of Mass Effect not being the way that they wanted it to be, or wanting things to be different, and feeling that if they exert enough pressure on the developer, that as the audience, they should be serviced the way that they want to be.
Yeah.
Which side do you fall on it in that? Because I mean, it's a very credible argument either way. Like, give me exactly what I want, or give me this expression from the creator, and I've just got to, you know, I need to go along with that. Which do you feel it should be the dominant side of that?
Well, I mean, games industry is, like, the medium's so big that you can have, I feel like you can have games that are more, I'm going to use this word, but I don't mean in a bad way, like a utility-ish game, like a sport game, where you should really listen to the users, you know what I mean? Like, it's not, I mean, there is art in sport, there's art in hockey, like watching Gretzky do his thing is kind of beautiful to see. Sorry,
Did you know he's Canadian?
You picked the right sport.
But yeah, like, and I think in that sense, it's like you got to listen to your users, you got to listen to their feedback.
Yeah.
But when you're making something that's sort of your expression, you really have to like, it has to come from that person, you know, it has to come from their heart. And I think that's really important, and I'm hoping that the media and consumers will really respect that, because that I feel is like how we're going to grow out of this sort of AAA rut that we're in, is when we start seeing these personalities, not just on camera, but through the games, like really see, like when you look at, I don't know, movies and stuff, you can really see when it's like a certain type of director making a certain type of movie. So I feel like we need that in games. The funny thing about video games is people use it, you know what I mean? Like there's a usability thing there, and so I think there is always going to be some sort of like feedback that needs to happen. Like if you intended for this certain thing to happen and nobody got it, and they're telling you that, maybe you should fix it. You know what I mean? So from that's sort of where I stand. I guess, I don't know if that answers the question.
No, it does. I'm glad to hear you say that. I hope you don't catch as much flaming for it as I've...
Brendan gets a lot of flack when he goes down that path, but I mean, it's...
If by flack you mean like signed up for gay porn spam sites, then yes. Plenty of that.
That happened when you wrote that?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a discussion that needs to be happening right now, and I mean, it's good that people do want to engage on it, but there are definitely two camps in the audience. There's the, I want this exactly how I want it, or also there's, you told me it was going to be this, and it's not.
Yeah, I feel like, you know, I go into a restaurant, sometimes I order the same thing over and over again, but sometimes I'm just like, I'll just pick this thing.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. You know, it's not exactly what I want, and it comes back and it's really good. Like, I think we need that, you know what I mean? Like, sort of like omakase when you go to a Japanese restaurant and the chef sort of just cooks the stuff for you. It's just whatever he does.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's really important that we have that in the games industry too, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I wish there weren't two camps, because we all just want good games.
Yeah.
And good games come from, you know, the both, like, good games come out of the thought processes of both people, like
Yeah.
user feedback and also singular vision kind of thing.
What do you spend most of your time playing when you're not testing your own game?
I tend to play games that have nothing to do with anything
Yeah.
when I'm working, so I don't get influenced or anything. So these days I've just been playing a lot of board games.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What do you like?
Power Grid is good. I've been playing a lot of Ascension on iPad.
Yeah.
I think it's made by the Magic the Gathering, like
Yeah.
tournament
The
players
guy-
from
yeah, the
Magic
guys
the
made it,
Gathering. At first because I was into Dominion and I was playing Ascension. I was like, it's just like a knockoff of Dominion. But then I started getting into it and I was like, oh, this is actually, there's a lot of depth here. Like
Yeah.
I bought the base game, played that, and I was like, whatever. And then I got the expansions and I went back and played the base game. And I was like, whoa, there's all this strategy and stuff that I haven't been thinking about.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's
So
really
what do you think about scheme? Kind of loaded question here. Schemes like that, where they sell you the core game, and then there's all the add-ons and downloadable content, and other things that you can buy to staple onto it to make it a more complete package.
Yeah, well, okay. I mean,
It's one thing with a board game and card games where there's that the precedent there, but
yeah,
for-
and they also have to they have to print that
Yeah,
stuff, right?
yeah.
But I think the game that goes out, that should be the full game. You know what I mean? And then obviously, it'd be cool to have Soundshape DLC in terms of different sort of notes, different music you can put down, different entities and stuff. And I think that stuff has meaning. And I that's cool. Like if you like the base game, and Soundshape's shifts with there's 200 entities in the game that you can play with. And you like it to the point where you want more, we'll give you more. And it's really cool. You get new sounds, you get to make, it's like, I don't know, it's like if you're writing music and you pick up a new instrument, you buy a new instrument, or you buy a new sample pack, you know what I mean? I think that's fine. But when it's like, we're gonna give you the game, we're gonna give you half the game, and you're gonna download the rest of it to play it, obviously that's not good.
Is there any game out there that you think just did it in a really good, smart way that respects customers?
I've been too unplugged to know what the hell is going on out there. I mean, the Ascension thing is pretty basic. You get the game, it's the real game,
Right.
and then
Board games have a pretty good model, so
yeah,
I have kids that are learning more complex board games. We play Ticket to Ride. The expansions for Ticket to Ride have been interesting because it's different parts of the world, or it adds modifiers. I don't mind dropping $10 on the little monster pack that changes the rules.
Did you play the monster pack?
Yeah,
is
it's
it good?
awesome.
It's
yeah, because what you can move the monster you can trade in. I'm sorry, it's getting really nerdy now. But you can trade in your
E3
cards
conversation
to move
gets
the monster.
really
So
nerdy.
and if the monster is on a city, you can't run a line to it.
Oh,
So as well
okay.
as running interference by taking routes that you think somebody else wants to, you can move the monster to block it as well. And then the more you use the monster, it acts as an amplifier on your overall score at the end. So whoever's played the most
good,
monster
cool.
cards gets an extra thing when you do the count at the end. So it actually makes there's sort of a two-layer strategy to it.
Yeah,
so that
yeah.
I don't mind dropping whatever it is, $10 for that.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. And one weird thing I found, this is gonna sound really weird, but when I bought, because I guess when I buy expansions for games, for some reason I'm expecting a completely different experience or something. When I buy an expansion for a board game, I'm always disappointed. I'm like, I guess it is more of the same. But
Right.
that's kind of what you want, right?
Yeah.
You like the game so much
Yeah.
that you want more of it. So that makes
Yeah.
sense. Anyway, sorry.
No.
I actually have more Ticket to Ride questions, but I suppose we should move it along.
I'm a big fan, and the iPad version. I don't know if you've tried that. The iPad version of Ticket to Ride is very good.
You know what? I find Ticket to Ride too stressful for me.
Really?
It's too stressful. I'm always like, oh, someone's gonna get my, my track or whatever.
Do you play in a large group or?
Yeah, like 4 people,
Yeah,
something like that.
it's the best way to play.
I'm the type of person that collects all the cars, and I've got 50 cars in my hand, and then I guess that contributes to the stress.
Blank stares.
You don't
Just-
play? It's very. It is
You should
very
play
good.
board games.
You
They're
should
really
play.
good.
Oh yeah.
I like Catan, and most of the board games that I like, I've been introduced to through Xbox Live.
I
and
think
PlayStation
board
and things
games
like
can
that.
give you a different appreciation for video games.
Because they're so because we've
It's
had
just
them
the
for
game
so
design.
long. Yeah, and they're really I feel like they're really, what's the word, further ahead than where we are with video games in terms of their interactivity, in terms of their procedural content. Like Catan has that thing where you you sort of make the map at the start,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And our games don't have that. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like procedural, I mean, Sound Shapes is a bit of a departure from sort of the stuff I was doing with procedural work that I want to get back into. But anyways, board games have been doing that, and it's so awesome. Like,
Yeah.
even the simple idea of shuffling the deck and getting the same experience but tweaked a little
Yeah.
bit, right? Like when I play Ascension, it's like there's different strategies you can take, but it depends on what cards show up. And then there's tactics involved. It's like, okay, well, it's sort of like this cross between, I don't know, poker and StarCraft, you know what I mean? I don't know, it's really good. It's like, I don't see that in video games.
Do you think it's because board game designers are either more focused on who plays them, or because it seems like there's a willingness to make it more complicated in board games, whereas in video games there seems to be this constant thing to, well, we've got to broaden it by making it simpler.
Yeah.
I think it's the idea of like, you have the musician who's sitting in the studio, who's got so much gear, he's just like this total gear whore, and he's making really crappy music, versus this guy who's just got a guitar,
Yeah.
and he's like fucking rocking out, really
Don't
rocking
worry,
out
you don't
on
have
it.
to apologize.
So it's the same thing, like with board gamers, or game designers, you don't have unlimited, like you have to use your imagination. You have to be like, okay, if I add this feature to the game, I gotta print out the cardboard for that. I gotta make cards for that. I gotta make, dice for that. You know what I mean? So they're really limited in that way, and that's that creative limitation that sort of breeds more creativity.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
The
And
restraints
we don't
that
really
help you.
have that in video games. It's like, I don't know. We're sort of shooting for this whole like graphical realism.
Yeah.
There's a lot of guns these days.
Oh my
I
god, there
guess.
were a lot of guns yesterday. A lot of guns.
Yeah, there's guns.
A lot of bow and arrows too.
Have you played this gun? There's this gun board game called
No.
Bang or something. It's like everyone has a gun, like a
No,
foam
really?
gun, and you choose who you. Anyway, sorry.
See, we
You
definitely
should look it up.
need to do board game night more often.
Back to video games.
I'm really sorry, guys.
It's all good.
It's my first time.
When does Sound Shapes come out?
August 7th. We have a date.
August 7th.
Is that, and that's on both?
Yep.
Awesome.
And
I
how
will
does
be
it?
there.
So, and the two work together. You buy them separately, or do they
No,
both? They both come in the same thing.
Pay
once,
once,
get
the
both?
price. Yeah, you pay $15.
Yeah.
And you get both of them.
Fantastic.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank
you very much, Jonathan.
Thanks.
So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
this is the bonus stage on GameSpot. This is Jonathan Mack. What's your Twitter, Jonathan? Do you have a Twitter account you want to
It's
share?
at Queasy00.
At Queasy00.
Why don't you do at Soundshapes?
At Soundshapes? Follow at Soundshapes. Brendan, what's yours?
At Brendan Sinclair.
At Brendan Sinclair. I'm at JWH Davison. We will be back in 5 minutes with Jeff Gerstmann from Giant Bomb. I think he's brought some people with him. He can't hear me right now, but I'm looking right at him. Who else you brought with you, Jeff? Mr. Ryan Davis will be joining us as well, so we will be back in 5 minutes. Tune in then. Thank you very much.